ॐ दक्षिणास्य समारम्भा शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमा अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ता स्मर्या गुरुपरम्परा श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। परिज्ञानाश्रम श्रीगुरुशङ्कर परिज्ञानाश्रम शङ्कर सद्गुरु केशववामन कृष्णपाण्डुरङ्ग आनन्द परिज्ञान गुरु सद्यो जात शङ्कर सद्गुरु गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। So now we are looking at a few of the Advaita Stotras composed by Bhagavan Shankaracharya. And in the last few sessions, we saw the most popular of one of the Advaita Stotras of Bhagavan Shankaracharya, which was called as the Bhajagovindam, or which is named as Mohamudgaraha, or the hammer which hammers away all our delusions and prompts the human jiva to make Purushartha Nishchaya as Moksha Purushartha, in favor of Moksha Purushartha. And we saw that Bhajagovindam said that all your Arthakama Purusharthas, all the material acquisitions which you are going after, are only temporary. They are only ephemeral. And what are you looking for? You are looking for that permanent peace, security, and happiness. And you think that the world of objects, people in the world, the situations around you are going to give you that which you are looking for. But whatever you go after does not really give you that peace and security and happiness which you are looking for. It doesn't give you. Then what is it that gives you that permanent peace, security, and happiness which you're looking for? It is nothing but the knowledge of that Atma or Brahman. Bhaja Govindam, choose moksha, choose God, choose Ishvara, choose Brahman, choose to know Brahman. Have this Purushartha Nishchaya that if this human life is given to me, it is ultimate to get out of this bondage of samsara. It is ultimately to get out of this series of lives and deaths I have been going through. And it is telling me, Mohamudgara told me, hey Mudhamate, hey deluded intellect, now is the right time for you to think, choose the right Purushartha, choose the right pursuit, which is knowing Brahman, and go for it, and then ultimately get free from this bondage of samsara, which we saw in the last 3 or 4 sessions. Now, as a continuation of that, from today, for the next 2 or maximum 3, should be in 2 sessions, we will take up a work of Adi Shankaracharya called as Sadhanapanchakam. What is the meaning of sadhana? In Mohamudgara, we saw Shankaracharya telling us that choose moksha as the Purushartha. If moksha has to be chosen as the Purushartha, if you have become a mumukshu, that means you have chosen moksha as your goal. So if you have become a mumukshu, what is the sadhana that you have to follow? When you become a mumukshu, you become a sadhaka. A mumukshu is a sadhaka. And then he has to follow a certain set of sadhanas to attain his goal called as sadhya. Sadhya is the goal that I have in mind. Sadhana is the means which lead me to that goal. And I, the person who make use of the means called sadhana to reach my goal, which is the sadhyam, this a person is called as a sadhaka. So this sadhaka, using the means or the sadhanas, and what are these sadhanas? We'll see. The means or the sadhanas reach the sadhya, the goal. And what is the goal that Bhagavan Shankaracharya in all his Advaita stotras is asking us to do? That goal which is prescribed by our scriptures, that goal which is prescribed by our Upanishads, which is the ultimate goal which every human being should actually opt for. So, therefore, whatever text we are going to take up now in the next 2 or 3 sessions is called as Sadhana Panchakam. Panchakam means a set of 5 verses or a set of 5 shlokas which are going to talk about the sadhanas that are necessary for a sadhaka to reach his sadhyam, the goal of moksha purushartha. I, as a mumukshu sadhaka, what should I do? That is what the scriptures tell me. The scriptures tell me what are the sadhanas that I should use to reach my sadhyam, to reach the goal of moksha purushartha. This sadhana panchakam also is known by other names also. Sadhana panchakam or sadhana panchakam, both we can pronounce it that way also. The sadhana panchakam is also known by other names. One is what is called as the Upadesha Panchakam. What is the meaning of Upadesha? The teaching of our scriptures, the teaching of Vedanta, that is asking us to choose a particular lifestyle of sadhanas to reach my goal moksha. Therefore, it is called as the Upadesha Panchakam, a set of 5 verses which Bhagwan Shankaracharya is going to elaborate in whatever Upadesha our scriptures are giving for a mumukshu. It is also called as Advaita Panchakam. Advaita Panchakam. What is the meaning of Advaita Panchakam? Whatever Advaita teaching is taught in the Upanishads as the very core teaching of the Upanishads, this Sadhana Panchakam ultimately leads me to that Advaita teaching in the form of Jnana Yoga, where this sadhana leads me ultimately to the Jnana Yoga, where I pursue Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam of what is taught in the Upanishads as the very core of the teaching of Upanishads. And what is the core of the teaching? Core teaching of the Upanishads? Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya, Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. That is the core teaching of the Upanishads. And this Advaita Panchakam, a set of 5 verses, are going to lead me to that ultimate core teaching of Vedanta. Sadhana Panchakam is also called as Sopana Panchakam. What is the meaning of Sopana? In a stepwise manner. Sopana means it is a staircase. It could be a ladder also with steps, where I gradually climb from the lowest rung or the lowest step to the highest step. And Sopana Panchakam means here, in a set of 5 verses, Adi Shankaracharya gives us a stepwise development of how I can become from a mumukshu to a mukta. From a mumukshu to a mukta, my journey is stepwise explained as to how I should go step after step to reach my particular goal or my sadhyam, which is nothing but freedom from this bondage, which is, in other words, known as moksha. So, we are going to see this sadhana panchakam, and we have to understand before we actually go to the verses, let us understand how our scriptures guide a mumukshu in the journey of a mumukshu to a mukta purusha, how they guide and what is that particular vyavastha, or what is the system that our scriptures follow in advising a mumukshu about how to reach his final goal of moksha. Now, our scriptures talk about, or they educate every human being about a lifestyle which is naturally conducive to this spiritual journey. Our Vedas are structured that way, that the Vedas actually take us from the step 1 to the step 5 or whatever it is, whichever any number of steps, whatever number of steps we take here, it's given in a ladder or a staircase of 5 steps. But then our scriptures or our Vedas, let us not go to the Vedanta now. Our Vedas, especially the Veda Purva and also the Smriti Granthas, are talking about a very, very natural lifestyle of an individual which is very conducive for this journey. It's a very, very natural lifestyle. And how does Veda present this particular system or an arrangement so that a person naturally grows in his spiritual journey and has a spiritual growth naturally if he is sensitive enough? So, two kinds of systems or arrangements are followed by the Vedas. One is called as the Varna system or arrangement, the other is called as the Ashrama arrangement. Now, we are not going to talk much about the Varna system because in Bhagavad Gita, we have discussed clearly about what is Chaturvarnyam. Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam, Lord Krishna said. I created the four Varnas. And what is Varna creation? Varna creation is not the caste system. Varna creation, what is Varna Paddhati or Varna system, or what is the scheme, or what is the arrangement of this Varna system in society? It is meant for a harmonious and cohesive functioning of the society without any conflicts. And nobody is superior, nobody is inferior here. Four varnas have been, the society is divided or grouped into four varnas. Varnas means it's grouping. In four groups, they are grouped depending upon the predominance of the guna that they have. We have already studied sattva, rajas, sattva guna, rajoguna, and tamoguna. All of us have. But then Lord Krishna says that depending on the predominance of gunas and a particular combination of gunas in a particular way, four varnas are created for a proper functioning of the society, because each varna has a capacity for a particular performance of a particular job. Each varna is good in a particular profession. So, taking that into consideration, the Brahmana and the Kshatriya, the Vaishya and the Shudra Varnas were created depending on their guna predominance, and the groups were meant to perform and do whatever actions they are best suited for. Therefore, there was no superiority or inferiority. It was not a caste system. It was a grouping where four groups performed whatever they were best at to run a very, very positive and a cohesive and a harmonious society. Sadhana Panchakam does not deal with the Varna system. It deals with the second system or the arrangement for the individual growth, for the growth of the individual jiva. That is called as the ashrama system. Ashrama system means they are the different stages of the life, stages in the life of a person. And all of us, all jivas, that is human jivas, go through, according to our scriptures, go through these four stages in one's life. The Brahmacharya Ashrama. Ashrama means a particular stage in one's life. And Sadhana Panchakam, since it deals with the individual spiritual growth and not with the harmonious functioning of the society, here Bhagwan Shankaracharya is giving absolute, you know, importance to the ashrama system or the ashrama arrangement. In the ashrama arrangement, an individual person gradually grows from brahmacharya ashrama to grahastha to vanaprastha and lastly to sannyasashrama. The brahmacharya ashrama is basically to learn, to gather information, to learn the Vedas, to learn the very scheme of life that is given in the Vedas. Then grahastha is meant predominantly for karma, predominantly for the karmas that have been talked about in the Vedas for the sake of chitta shuddhi. So being a grahastha following the Vedic injunctions and doing whatever the Vedapurva asks a grahastha to do is naturally, without his knowledge, growing spiritually. With Karma Yoga way of life, a life of contribution in the grahastha a life of activity or pravritti in the grahastha. This grahastha is meant for chitta shuddhi or preparing the mind of the individual grahastha for later withdrawal from active life. So grahastha is the active life. Then comes vanaprastha where slowly this grahastha who has been absolutely busy and involved in karma yoga, in doing various karmas that are injuncted by the scriptures, gradually or slowly withdraws from karma and concentrates on upasana or worship. This gradual withdrawal from active grahastha lifestyle and involving himself for chitta naischalyam for the sake of developing the capacity to focus, one pointed focus, chitta naischalyam by upasana yoga. So vanaprastha is a stage in one's life where one gradually prepares for total renunciation of all actions. He tries to, this particular vanaprastha tries to come out of the active lifestyle, engages himself or herself more in worship, in upasana, and that mind which has already been prepared by karma yoga, now because of the vanaprastha where worship or upasana is predominant, there is chitta naischalyam develops. And in both these grahastha and vanaprastha, the person develops or it takes in the whatever are the values that have been talked about in Bhagavad Gita by Lord Krishna. He imbibes the values, amanitvadi values, which become stronger in vanaprastha and allow this grahastha to gradually withdraw from that pravritti lifestyle of a grahastha. Vanaprastha is almost like a kind of a shock absorber or an absorber between grahastha and the total renunciation and going away in the form of sannyasashrama. And the last station of one's life, according to our scriptures, is sannyasashrama, where a person either completely gives up all the karma, walks away from home, takes up to a lifestyle of a monk, either vidhivat as a sannyasi, or internally he completely renounces all activity that he was doing in grahastha and vanaprastha. And the ultimate purpose of sannyasashrama is to involve in committed pursual of the study of Vedanta, to pursue the study of what Vedanta says, Vedanyana Yoga. So, what is Brahmacharya Ashrama? Learning the basic skills and the basics, preparing this person for the next ashrama. Grahastha Ashrama is Karma Yoga Pradhana, Vanaprastha is Upasana Yoga Pradhana, and Sannyasa Ashrama is Jnana Yoga Pradhana Ashramas. So these four ashramas Each ashrama has its own set of duties, has its own sets of what has to be done, what should not be done, and then what is the benefit of doing what is to be done, what is the benefit of not doing what is not to be done. And this ashrama system, without my knowledge, prepares me and takes me up the ladder of spiritual growth. But we may say that today, in today's world, of course, the Varna system is almost gone. The ashrama system also is almost gone. But then, in spirit, in actuality, it may not be the way the Vedas describe the various ashramas, but even now we do have a kind of a semblance of the ashrama system. We are learning without any kind of a other responsibilities. That is our brahmacharya stage where learning, maybe a different kind of learning is going on now. Then we have an active lifestyle of about 30 to 35 years in the form of grahastha. Then, when we have completed all our duties of Grahastha there is a withdrawal from the active lifestyle where we are involved in other things in the sense we try to get into actively into a spiritual growth as such. And then ultimately, we have the old age where we are completely renouncing all actions that we were doing earlier. Though this ashrama system or arrangement may not be as pakka as it was in the Vedic times, still a semblance of the ashrama dharma is still maintained. To some extent, it is there. Though we can say that it may not be 100% there, but it doesn't matter. But that a kind of an arrangement in a different way still exists now. So, what is it that Bhagwan Shankaracharya is going to talk in the Sadhana Panchakam? Is that what one has to do as a brahmachari, what one has to do or not do as a grahastha, what are the responsibilities of sadhanas that have to be done as a brahmachari, as a grahastha, as a vanaprastha, and as a sannyasi. That is gradually growing from karma yoga to upasana yoga to jnana yoga, ultimately jnanam and moksha. This is going to be talked in a series of 5 shlokas, which gradually take me from Brahmacharya ashrama to ultimately to sannyas ashrama to the state of nididhyasanam. This is the sadhana he is talking about here. Now, before we go to the verses where they are specifically meant for a mumukshu who has to go from brahmacharya ashrama to the sannyas ashrama, before that we have to understand that there are different things which are to be followed generally and specifically by every individual. Now, there is something called as a Varna Dharma, Ashrama Dharma. A particular person belonging to a particular Varna has to follow a certain system of life which we call as Varna Dharma. Similarly, a person who is in a particular ashrama has to follow a particular Veda injuncted way of life called as ashrama dharma. This is there as a Varana Dharma, Ashrama Dharma, whatever is to be done. We have already seen that in Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna is talking about Swadharma and asking Arjuna that you are a Kshatriya and your Swadharma is to give Dharma to the society, to establish Dharma in the society, and therefore you have to fight a war to remove the adharmic elements and establish Dharma in the society. And therefore, Arjuna, it is your Swadharma, it is your Swakarma. So he talked about this Swadharma. So these Varna Ashrama Dharmas are called as the Vishesha Dharmas. What applies to a Brahmana Grahastha does not apply to a Kshatriya Grahastha. They have a different set of Vishesha Dharmas. But every one of us have what is called as a Samanya Dharma. What is Samanya Dharma? Our scriptures say that every person irrespective of whether one belongs to a particular varna or a particular ashrama, does not matter. The specific dharmas or Vishesha dharmas you have to follow, but then there are Samanya dharmas which one has to follow. What are the Samanya dharmas? The Samanya dharma is divided into a set of two, a set of two, what is called as Yama and Niyama. We have already seen that. Yama Niyama also we have seen in Bhagavad Gita to a small extent, but I thought this would be a right context to sort of revise what is actually Yama and Niyama. Yama means what one should not do. Niyama means what one should do, irrespective of whichever varna one belongs, whichever ashrama one belongs. Each one of us, as individual human beings, have a samanya dharma or a common code of conduct, so that in addition to my Vishesha Dharma, this common code of conduct leaves the entire society in a proper harmonious condition. So the Samanya Dharmas are divided into Yama, means that which should be avoided, Niyamas, that which should be followed by every adult human being, which is learnt in the Brahmacharya ashrama itself as to what is done, what is not to be done. What are the yamas? Yama means what? What is not to be done? What is to be avoided? There are five things here. One thing, the first thing is called as ahimsa. What is ahimsa? Ahimsa means not causing any hurt or harm to anybody else, to any other jiva. So here ahimsa means avoiding himsa. It is giving in a negative form. Ahimsa means what? Avoid himsa in any way. Kayika himsa, vachika himsa, or even manasa himsa. Don't hurt anybody either from the body or by your speech, or even don't entertain the thought of himsa to any other being, not only a human being, to any other being. So the most important yama is avoiding violence, hurt, injury to any other person. Himsa is to be avoided, ahimsa. The next one is satyam, avoiding untruth. Anritam should be avoided. The truth should be told. Always, because if everybody starts speaking untruth, then nobody can be trusted. No vyavahara can go on in this jagat at all. So, as a common dharma, satyam or avoiding falsehood, avoiding lying is a very, very important yama. Avoid anritam, avoid lying. That means what? Try to speak the truth as much as possible, satyam. The next one is astheyam. Avoid stealing. Steyam means actually stealing. But what it means is don't possess anything which belongs to somebody else. It is as good as stealing. When I possess something which does not belong to me legitimately, I possess something which belongs to somebody else, which should be with somebody else. I have by some adharmic action taken it, and I am possessing something which is not mine, legally mine or legitimately mine or naturally mine, but which I have taken forcibly from somebody, causing himsa to that other person. It is teyam, or it is like stealing. So asteyam means what? Not possessing something which belongs to somebody else, really belongs to somebody else and doesn't belong to me, astheyam. So ahimsa, satyam, astheyam. Then fourth one is brahmacharyam. Brahmacharyam means what? Proper conduct and proper kind of mental attitude towards a person of opposite gender. No adharmic way of connecting with the opposite gender. This is called as brahmacharya. Brahmacharya means, of course, lot of meanings are given to brahmacharya. Even a person who is involved in the study of Atmajnana is also called as a brahmachari. Brahmani charati iti brahmachari. But here in Yama, brahmacharya means don't have any inappropriate or adharmic, action or thought or attitude towards a person of the opposite gender. Let your relationship with the opposite gender be dharmic, the way it has been explained or the way it has been told in the Vedas. This is brahmacharyam, avoiding inappropriate behavior, inappropriate adharmic attitude towards a person of the opposite gender. Brahmacharya. Then the fifth one is aparigraham. Parigraha means what? Hoarding things, even if they belong to me. Hoarding unnecessary. If we really go to houses, we'll see. I mean, in our own house, let us see how many things are there which we don't need. Like once in a year, if I try to see what I need, what I don't need, I'll find that I have accumulated over a period of time so many things which are of no use to me, which I'm not using, which are lying and literally gathering dust. But I don't get the feeling that let me give it to somebody, let me share it with somebody who will probably need it. So, aparigraha means what? I don't accumulate or hoard things. Even if somebody gives me unnecessary, I can always say, I don't want to hoard things. I have enough. Don't give me anything. I don't want to accept it. So, aparigraha means what? Not unnecessarily hoarding or accumulating things. And in today's world, all these five, how many of us are following? So the Samanya Dharma itself is eroding so much, isn't it? But then, this is the Vedic pattern of Samanya Dharma for a happy and a harmonious society. So, what should not be done? Yama, these five we talked about. What should be actively pursued? What should be done for individual spiritual growth as well as the societal growth? What is one supposed to do as common dharma, as samanya dharma for all the varna ashrama arrangement for people belonging to all varnas and ashramas? They are called as the niyamas. And what are they? Shaucham, cleanliness, bahya shaucham, antara shaucham. That is, shuddhata outside in my appearance also, at the same time inside in my thought also I am pure. Okay, that is shaucham. Then santosham, being contented with what is there with me. Yadricha labha santushtah. Yadricha labha santushtah, whatever I get, I am happy with it. Whatever I have legitimately earned, accumulated, that belongs to me. In that also, if I can reduce the hoarding, if I can reduce the unnecessary things and create a space for myself, it creates a space in my mind also. The outside clutter, that we clutter, accumulating so many things, it is nothing but a manifestation of the clutter inside my mind. And the more clutter I clear from the outside my surroundings, my mind also becomes less cluttered, available for spiritual growth. Okay, so that is what it is. So that is shaucham, santosham, contentment with what I have. Swadhyaya. Our scriptures have so many things in them, especially in Vedanta, where the Vedas are talking about a person's ultimate release from this bondage. So, Swadhyaya, daily studying one's own shakha of the Vedas, some chanting to be done, learning something, trying to understand what our scriptures are trying to say. It's very easy to say, it is very difficult, I don't understand. Yes, because we are not used to it. We have not put our mind to what the scriptures are saying. All the time we are only interested in parigraha, artha, kama, parigraha. We have never bothered to understand what our scriptures are saying, what is the teaching of our scriptures, and initially it is going to be difficult. It is not easy. No knowledge is easily available. One has to put in one's effort to learn. Laukika Vidyas are also not that easy. No Laukika Jnanam comes like this. One has to put years and years of effort. Then, what to talk about spiritual or scriptural knowledge? Therefore, Swadhyaya, studying what our scriptures have to say. It keeps going. It is said that if I chant a bhashya, then I'm giving an extension of life to that Shankara bhashya. When I chant the Vedas, I keep it going. I keep it, going further. It goes further. It doesn't stagnate. Therefore, Swadhyaya is absolutely necessary to see that our scriptures continue to go to the next generations ahead and they don't get stagnated. Swadhyaya is there. Then tapaha, some kind of a discipline has to be there. If I have to go to the Vishesha Dharma of Varna and Ashrama Dharma, some kind of a discipline I must have in myself. Even for Laukika Vidyas, there is a discipline necessary. For a Laukika action, discipline is necessary. A person who wants to take part in the Olympics has to have a discipline to train himself or herself. So, what about that? If I want to learn what our scriptures are saying, then, I have to have some kind of a discipline where I have some commitment to the learning of the scriptures, to the sadhana that is being told by the scriptures for my spiritual growth. So, tapaha. I should not just be a slave of the mind and the sense organs and run after Arthakama, entire life gone in Arthakama. That should not be there. There should be some kind of a discipline for my spiritual growth, my emotional growth. It is absolutely necessary to grow as a person. It is necessary to have some kind of a tapa. That is being talked about as a niyama. Some kind of a tapa, whatever it is. Maybe an Ekadashi Upavasa is a type of tapa. Going for a pilgrimage is a type of tapa. Even Swadhyaya itself, that I commit so many hours in a day for the study, going to a guru and doing whatever is necessary to, it's all a form of discipline, tapas, tapa. That is at the physical level, at the vak level. We have seen it in Bhagavad Gita. Three kinds of tapa. What are they? At the body level, there is tapas. At the vak level, there is tapas, discipline. At the mind level, also there is tapas. And there are three, sattvika, rajasa, and tamasa tapaha. We have seen it in detail in the 17th chapter. So, tapaha, a self discipline for the emotional and spiritual growth of the individual. And the last thing of the niyama is Ishvara Pranidhana. That means surrendering, recognizing that there is a higher power and Ishvara and worship of Ishvara. Accepting Ishvara in my life, bringing in Ishvara more and more in my life doesn't mean I don't do any self effort. I do, I put all my effort. At the same time, I surrender to Ishvara for grace so that my growth, my emotional and my spiritual growth goes without any problems. This Yama Niyamas are the Samanya Dharmas which are prescribed for every person, irrespective of Varna and Ashrama. Now we will go into the actual text of Sadhana Panchakam. All this particular introduction was absolutely necessary to come to what actually Bhagwan Shankaracharya is going to talk about in Sadhana Panchakam. And he starts from Brahmacharya Ashrama. So let us read the first verse. The first verse is talking about the Brahmacharya Ashrama and the Grahastha. The second verse and the third verses will be talking about commonly, continuity is there, of Vanaprastha and Sannyasashrama. What are the sadhanas to be followed at each particular stage in one's life? And the last two verses, fourth and the fifth verses, are certain instructions given for this knowledge to become absolutely a nishtha in me. This knowledge, ultimately the Atmajnanam, that should become a naturally assimilated, available knowledge to me. So, what should a person who has got this knowledge do to establish that nishtha or assimilation of that knowledge? The general instructions to a person who is in jnana yoga, general instructions to a jnana yogi are given in the fourth verse and the fifth verse. So let me read it, and we read it like Dakshinamurti Stotram in that particular meter only. We read it. I'll first read it, then line by line I will explain what it means. वेदो नित्यमधीयतां तदुदितं कर्मस्वनुष्ठीयतां तेनेशस्य विधीयताम् अपचितिः काम्ये मतिस्त्यज्यतां पापौघः परिधूयतां भवसुखे दोषोऽनुसन्धीयताम् आत्मेच्छाव्यवसीयतां निजग्रहात् तूर्णं विनिर्गम्यताम्. So this is a combination of what actually should be done by a person belonging to the brahmacharya ashrama and also to grahastha. The first two words, Vedo Nityam Adhiyatam. Here Adhiyatam, Karmasvanushtiyatam, they are mandates which are given. May this be done by you. May this be done by you. Are you a brahmachari? May this be done by you. Are you a grahastha? May this be done by you. May this be the sadhana that is followed by you. This is indirect speech. Indirect speech is more powerful. It must be done by you. When it is said, it is a more powerful way of putting it across. So the first two words, Vedo Nityam Adhiyatam, they talk about Brahmacharya Ashrama. What is the purpose of Brahmacharya Ashrama? To study. And in those times, what was the study involving? Vedas. Therefore, Brahmachari means Veda Adhyayanartham Vratam Charati iti Brahmachari. Veda Adhyayanartham. For the sake of the study of the Vedas, Vratam Charati commits himself to the discipline of studying the Vedas, iti Brahmachari. That is the definition of a Brahmachari, Brahmacharya Ashrama. So, what does a Brahmachari do? He may be in the Gurukulam. So, what does he do? Vedo Nityam Adhiyatam. A brahmachari is supposed to study the chanting of the Vedas and commit them to the memory. Not only the Vedas, he is also supposed to understand or know the Veda Angas, the four Vedas and the six Vedangas. He is supposed to study or chant Adhyayanam, Veda Adhyayanam, means chanting of the Vedas along with the six Vedangas. At the same time, in the later portions, he's supposed to say for 12 years in Gurukula, 12 years, and initially putting or committing the Vedas to memory is the first task, and then later one has to know the meaning of what he has studied. And in Brahmacharya Ashrama, the entire arrangement of the ashrama system given by the Vedas is understood by this brahmachari at this age itself. He knows what is the scheme of life that I have to follow. What is that path which I have to follow? The scheme is opened up totally to him. So it is Veda Adhyayana, Veda Anga Adhyayana, Veda Artha Adhyayana. Not only that, in a Gurukulam, there are these Shishyas or Brahmacharis belonging to the various Varnas. There are Kshatriya Shishyas, there are Vaishya Shishyas, there are Brahmana Shishyas. Therefore, for them also, whatever is their profession, in that also the Guru trains them. There is an arrangement for a Brahmana Shishya to get trained into whatever profession Brahmana has to do later. For a Vaishya, Arthashastra, the commerce, how it is, he has to, conduct his commerce or his business, that is talked about. For a Kshatriya Shishya, even warfare is taught in the ashrama. It is taught in the ashrama, in the Gurukula ashrama. Therefore, Vedo Nityam Adhiyatam. May the brahmachari be committed to the learning of the Vedas, the Vedangas, and the Artha, and also be trained in his particular profession based on whichever Varna he belongs. And that time, what is the duty of a brahmachari? Nothing but study, 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 and do whatever seva that he has to do in the Gurukulam as expected or instructed by the Guru. Not only that, a brahmachari imbibes the lifestyle of a Guru. He tries to see how the Guru is living his life and tries to emulate that lifestyle of a guru, the discipline that is followed by the guru, how he conducts himself. So the Shishya develops that strength of character at this age itself. At the same time, he learns to live with the other Shishyas, contribute to the maintenance of the ashrama, help the Guru Patni, the Guru Putras in running of the ashrama. Therefore, in the Gurukulam, this brahmachari is committed to learning all these things. Then comes the Grahastha where a person graduates from Gurukulam, from Brahmacharya Ashrama, full of knowledge, which is required to be put into action. He has acquired that knowledge, but that knowledge has to be put into action. And taduditam karma svanushthiyatam. That means what? Now, after this brahmacharya, the second half of the first line, taduditam means what? Whatever Vedas are talking about, karma, whatever is to be done by a grahastha, svanushthiyatam. May you follow the swadharma of your particular ashrama, of your particular varna, as given, as told by the Vedas. Here, karma swa anushtiyatam. Swa karma anushtiyatam means what? Karma means what here? The karmas or the activities or the actions, the Vedika karmas that have to be done by a grahastha are of can be divided into four types. Nitya Naimittika karmas, which Krishna called in Bhagavad Gita, Niyatam Kuru Karmatvam, Niyatam, Niyata Karmani. That means compulsorily to be done karmas. What are called as the Nitya Naimittika karmas? Then there is a second group of karmas called as Kamya karmas. I have a certain desire for something as a grahastha. I can achieve that desire by doing a certain karma or a certain ritual as told, as advised by the Vedas and get it dharmically for a particular purpose. That a person wants progeny, putra kameshti yaga is there. A person wants something else. There is some other, ritual for that. So kamya karmas with the sankalpa that I will do this karma for this particular result. That is called as the kamya karma. Then there are called as prayashchitta karmas that I have erred somewhere, I have caused, gone against the dharma somewhere, and I have to make atonement for what I have gone against, called as the prayashchitta karmas. The last one is called as the nishiddha karmas, where a grahastha is not supposed to do certain things, nishiddha karmas. So now, Nitya Naimittika karmas are the compulsory karmas. Those Nitya Naimittika karmas, tad uditam karma means swakarma, swadharma. What is that? Nitya Naimittika karmas, the compulsory karmas that have to be done in the grahastha may you do them. Now you may ask, there are so many Nitya Naimittika karmas. It is said that in the Vedic days, a grahastha had to do almost 26 types of karmas. That was supposed to be. Of course, in today's parlance, we don't see any of them. How can you now then? What is swakarma or what is this nitya naimitika karma? In today's parlance, we can call it the Pancha Mahayajnas. We have already seen what are Pancha Mahayajnas. It is something where I contribute to the society in five different ways. That is what Deva Yajna. I worship the functionaries which are running this nature in its proper manner. Deva Yajna, Pitru Yajna. My gratitude I show by doing certain things for my forefathers who have passed away, and today I'm here because of what they were. Pitru Yajna. Then we have Brahma Yajna or Rishi Yajna, where we are indebted to our rishis for having given this knowledge to us, for having given and deciphered this Vedas to us. So we show our respect to them by certain karmas in the form of Swadhyaya. What we are doing is Brahma Yajna. What we are studying now for the last 2.5 years, every week we are sitting together studying some text or the other. This is nothing but Brahma Yajna. Brahma Yajna, then Manushya Yajna. I contribute to the other jivas, manushas, other people, other human beings around me in the form of helping them in whatever way I can. Manushya Yajna. Last is Bhuta Yajna. Bhuta Yajna means I contribute to the harmony of the entire nature for all the other jivas also, like the plants and animals and birds and reptiles or whatever it is. I, to some extent, positively contribute to them. So, in today's parlance, the Nitya Naimittika karmas of the Vedas, which were meant for the Grahastas, can be translated or can be talked about in the form of Pancha Mahayajnas. That is a fivefold contribution for the harmony of this entire universe. What I can contribute, because I take from so many people. I have received from my parents. I receive from Ishvara in the form of rains and in the form of so many things. I have received this knowledge from the rishis for my spiritual growth. I have received so much from my other fellow human beings. I have received so much from other jivas. Without those jivas, I would not be able to live. This whole, nature, this whole thing is nothing but a conglomeration of all these jivas. And I feel and I find that it is my duty to contribute to their welfare, and this is what is called as Pancha Mahayajnas. And Pancha Mahayajnas are these which can be related to the Nitya Naimittika karmas of what he say, Taduditam karma, Taduditam, whatever the Shruti has expressed, Tad Uditam karma swa anushthiyatam. And then Tena Ishasya Vidhiyatam Apachitihi. By doing those karmas or following that way of life which has been told for your particular station in life, Tena, by following those karmas, Nitya Naimitya karmas, Ishasya Vidhiyatam Apachitihi. By following these karmas, may you consider them to be a worship to the Lord. Panchamahayajnas, may you consider the Panchamahayajnas when you do as my worship to the Lord, as my worship to the Ishvara. Apachitihi means worship. Vidhiyatam apachitihi tena, by those karmas, by following those karmas, Ishasya, to the Lord, to Ishvara, apachitihi vidhiyatam. Then he says, Kamye matistyajyatam. Don't get involved in kamya karmas unnecessarily, because kamya karmas are meant for a particular artha kama result. And the artha kama, more and more you do any of these kamya karmas for accruing material benefits, it is going to be a bondage to you. The spiritual growth is stunted there. Therefore, don't put too much of your effort in kamya karmas. At the same time, nishiddha karmas and prayashchitta karmas try to avoid as much as possible by living a proper way of life in the form of following the samanya dharmas and following the vishesha dharmas. Then there is no need to do prayashchitta at all. And if you follow the pattern of the Vedic lifestyle that has been given, then there is no question of your doing what you are not supposed to do. So that means Vihita karmas, Prayashchita karmas, automatically they drop away. You don't give much importance to Kamya karmas, but follow Nitya Naimitika karmas as a way of worship to Ishvara. Then he says, Papaughaha paridhuyatam. Papa oghaha means the groups of papas, groups of emotions which lead to papa or adharma. What are they? Kama, krodha, paridhuyatam. May you completely wash them away from your mind and have chitta shuddhi. This is Viveka. Viveka means what? I try to understand that karma, management of the kama krodhas, management of raga dveshas, which is what is talked about by Lord Krishna in the entire Bhagavad Gita. Bhavasuke dosha anusandhiyatam. May you see the limitations of sukha that comes from bhoga of the world outside. Vairagya comes here. So papaughav paridhuyatam means what? May you have the viveka to see, what your kama, krodha is doing viveka, nitya anitya vastu viveka. See what are the deficiencies in the world of objects outside. Dosha anusandhiyatam. This is development of vairagya. What are the doshas? Of course, we don't have much time here. We have already discussed what are the limitations of going after the world of objects. That is what? Dukkha karatvam, atrupti karatvam, bandhakatvam. I'll explain again in the next session. Of course, I thought maybe I could finish this whole thing in two sessions, but I don't think it's possible because there are a lot of things which I have to explain because this kind of a revision that we are doing because of we are taking the Advaita Stotras of Adi Shankaracharya because we are trying to revise what we have seen in the three main granthas that we have taken so far. So we'll probably have to give it a little more attention. So Bhavasukhe, the sukha that I get from the world outside, try to see the limitations of that sukha. What are the limitations of that bhava sukha? We'll talk about it in the next session. But then, Atmecham vyavasiyatam, last line. May you be a mumukshu. May you develop Atma Ichha from bhava Ichha, from the object Ichha, from people Ichha. May you develop Atma Ichha. May you have the desire to know yourself, Atma Ichha, Vyavasiyatam, Nijagrahat, Turnam Vinirkamyatam. Be ready, get ready for Vanaprastha. Get ready to withdraw yourself from this active lifestyle of a Grahastha. Enter the Grahastha do whatever has to be done in Grahastha prepare yourself to withdraw from Grahastha and go to the next automatic phase of your life, which is called as the Vanaprastha. So, what has he talked here about? The Brahmacharya Ashrama. In Grahastha he has talked about developing Viveka, Vairagya, Mumukshutvam. So, sadhana chatushtaya sampatti development starts from Grahastha itself. I think we'll stop here. Om Nandantu Sadhaka Sarve Vinashyantu Vidushakaha Avastha Shambhavi Mestu Prasannostu Guru Sada Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukkham Apnuyat Om Shanti Shanti Shanti